Silence is not empty. Silence is revealing. The reason most people are uncomfortable in silence is not because silence lacks something, but because silence exposes something. In today's world, we are surrounded by constant stimulation. Notifications, conversations, music, opinions, scrolling, reacting. The modern mind has become addicted to noise. But thousands of years ago, long before cities and digital screens, the yogis of ancient Bharat discovered a profound truth. When you remove outer noise, the inner noise becomes visible. And only when the inner noise becomes visible can it be understood, purified, and transcended. This is why silence has always been considered sacred in the yogic tradition. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, "Among secrets, I am silence." This statement is not poetic exaggeration. It is philosophical precision. Silence is not merely the absence of speech. In Sanskrit, intentional silence is called Mauna. It is a discipline, a vow, a conscious turning inward. When Krishna declares silence to be divine, he is pointing toward a state where the ego softens and truth begins to reveal itself. Because truth does not shout. Truth whispers. And only a silent mind can hear it. Now imagine this. You decide to sit in silence every day for 30 days. No phone, no music, no conversation. Just you, your breath, and your awareness. On the first day, something unexpected happens. Instead of peace, you experience chaos. Thoughts begin racing. You remember conversations from years ago. You replay arguments. You plan future scenarios. You feel restless. You want to stand up. You feel boredom, irritation, doubt. You begin questioning the practice itself. This initial turbulence shocks you because you realize something uncomfortable. You are not in control of your own mind. Arjuna expressed the same frustration in the Bhagavad Gita when he told Krishna, "The mind is restless, turbulent, strong, and obstinate. I consider it more difficult to control than the wind." This was spoken thousands of years ago, yet it perfectly describes the modern condition. Today, neuroscience calls this restless mental activity the default mode network. This network activates when the mind is not engaged in a specific task and is associated with rumination, anxiety, and self-referential thinking. When you sit in silence, this network becomes louder, not because silence creates chaos, but because silence exposes the chaos that was always there. During the first week of silence, your nervous system begins recalibrating. The brain, accustomed to constant stimulation and dopamine spikes from external input, suddenly finds itself deprived. Studies in neuroscience show that when external stimulation reduces, the brain initially experiences discomfort similar to withdrawal. You may feel agitation. You may feel like you are wasting time. But what is truly happening is that your system is detoxifying from distraction. The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali define yoga as Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, meaning yoga is the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind. Notice the word cessation, not suppression. Silence does not force the mind to stop. It allows the mind to settle naturally when it is no longer constantly stimulated. By the second week, something subtle begins to change. The thoughts are still there, but now you begin to observe them instead of drowning in them. This shift is profound. In the Upanishads, this state is called Sakshi Bhava, the witness consciousness. You begin to realize that there is a part of you that watches thoughts without being those thoughts. You see anger arise, but you are not anger. You see fear appear, but you are not fear. You see memories surface, but you are not your past. This separation between awareness and mental content is the beginning of inner freedom. Modern neuroscience supports this transformation. Research shows that consistent mindfulness and silent awareness practices strengthen the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for emotional regulation and conscious decision-making. At the same time, activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center, decreases. This means silence does not make you passive, it makes you stable. You become less reactive and more responsive. The space between stimulus and reaction expands, and in that space, wisdom begins to operate. As you enter the third week, the inner dialogue begins slowing down. Not because you fought it, but because you stopped feeding it. The mind thrives on engagement. When you constantly argue with thoughts or chase them, they multiply. But when you observe without attachment, they lose energy. Research published in neuroscience journals has shown that long-term meditation increases gray matter density in the hippocampus, which plays a key role in memory and emotional regulation. Cortisol levels drop, alpha and theta brainwaves increase. These brainwaves are associated with creativity, intuition, and deep relaxation. What ancient yogis described as dhyana, modern science measures as altered neural activity. During this stage, silence no longer feels like effort. It begins to feel like home. The Bhagavad Gita describes this state. When the mind, restrained by practice, rests in the self alone, free from longing for desires, then one is said to be united. Resting in the self is not mystical fantasy. It is the direct experience of awareness without agitation. You sit, and there is breath. There are sensations. There may still be thoughts, but they pass like clouds in a vast sky. And you begin to sense that you are not the clouds. You are the sky. By the fourth week, something even deeper unfolds. The identification with thought begins dissolving. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad teaches the method of neti neti, meaning not this, not this. Whatever you can observe is not your essential nature. You observe your body, so you are not merely the body. You observe your thoughts, so you are not merely the mind. You observe your emotions, so you are not merely feelings. What remains when all observed phenomena are recognized as objects of awareness? What remains is pure consciousness. Silence begins dissolving the illusion of a fragmented identity. Many advanced meditators show reduced activity in brain regions associated with ego-centered processing. Compassion increases. Emotional resilience strengthens. Anxiety decreases. But beyond the measurable changes, there is a profound existential shift. You no longer feel as trapped by your mental narrative. You no longer chase validation with the same urgency. You begin to experience a subtle contentment that does not depend on external circumstances. The Chandogya Upanishad declares, Tat Tvam Asi, meaning, thou art that. The sages were not making philosophical speculation. They were describing lived realization. Through disciplined silence, they discovered that the individual self is not separate from universal consciousness. While such realization may not fully dawn in 30 days, the direction becomes clear. You begin to taste what it means to exist without constant mental noise. After 30 days of silence, you may not appear dramatically different on the outside. You will still go to work. You will still speak. You will still live in society. But internally, your relationship with experience transforms. You do not believe every thought. You do not react to every emotion. You pause. You breathe. You respond with awareness. Silence has not given you something new. It has removed what was unnecessary. The real miracle of 30 days in silence is not supernatural visions or mystical experiences. The real miracle is clarity. The real miracle is stability. The real miracle is realizing that beneath anxiety, beneath distraction, beneath identity, there has always been a quiet presence observing everything. That presence is what the Upanishads call the Atman. And according to the sages, realizing the Atman is the highest purpose of human life. Silence is not escape from the world. It is preparation to engage the world wisely. It does not make you detached from responsibility. It makes you free from inner compulsion. You act, but without agitation. You speak, but without unnecessary noise. You live, but with awareness. And perhaps the greatest discovery after 30 days is this. The peace you were searching for outside was always available within, hidden beneath layers of mental turbulence. Silence is not empty. Silence is full. It is full of insight, full of awareness, full of truth. When you sit in silence, you are not doing nothing. You are meeting yourself. And in that meeting, transformation becomes inevitable.